2026 promises to be one of the most anticipated years for K-dramas, because several actors are simply going to return from the military all at once. And we're not just talking about any names. I'm talking about some of our favorites. The question is, who is going to dominate everything again? Kang. After conquering the world of dramas with his angelic face and intense characters, Kang simply disappeared. For many fans, it felt like a sudden void. After all, he was at his peak, starring in hit after hit. But like every South Korean man, the call of the army is inevitable. And that is exactly what temporarily paused one of the most promising careers of his generation. During his military service, Kang's name continued to circulate among fans and online forums. Theories, expectations, and even rumors about his return began to grow. And for good reason. We're talking about an actor who dominated Netflix and became a global face of K-dramas. Now, with his return scheduled for 2026, the question isn't whether he will return to the top, but rather at what level he will dominate this time. There is an almost absurd expectation surrounding his comeback. Bigger projects, more mature characters, and even possible ventures into cinema are on the radar. And if there's one thing the Korean industry knows how to do, it's turning a military return into a true event. Kang isn't just coming back, he's about to redefine his career. Naen Wu. Unlike some names who were born giants, Naen Wu built his trajectory more quietly, but extremely consistently. He was that type of actor you suddenly start seeing everywhere. And before you realize it, he's already a lead. His growth was organic, winning over the public little by little with charisma and screen presence. But just as his career was beginning to reach a new level, the mandatory break arrived: military service. And as happens with many actors, the fans' fear was clear. Would he be able to maintain the momentum after so much time away? The answer is beginning to take shape now, with his return set for 2026. And curiously, the scenario might be even more favorable for him. This is because while some actors face image saturation, Naen Wu returns with something rare: the public's longing. And in the entertainment industry, that is worth gold. There is a strong possibility that he will return with strategic projects, perhaps more intense dramas or roles that show a clear evolution as an actor. It wouldn't be a surprise at all if he returned stronger than when he left, because sometimes silence doesn't erase a career, it just prepares the ground for a much bigger comeback. Huang Min Hyun. If there's someone who has lived two lives within the Korean industry, that person is Huang Min Hyun. Before establishing himself as an actor, he already carried a massive fan base as an idol, which naturally brought attentive eyes, and also a certain distrust. But he did something few can. He proved, with consistency, that he wasn't there just for the fame, but for real talent. His roles began to gain depth, his presence on screen became more confident, and little by little, he stopped being the idol who acts to actually become a respected actor. It was exactly at this turning point that military service entered the scene, pausing an evolution that seemed to be just starting to reach its peak. Now, with his return expected in 2026, Min Hyun returns with something extremely valuable: a clean, consolidated image without scandals. In an industry where reputation is everything, this puts him in a privileged position. But the most interesting part is another point. There is a silent expectation that he will return differently. More mature, more intense, perhaps even taking on more complex and emotionally demanding roles. And here is the detail. When an actor returns from the army with something to prove, the impact is usually much greater. Huang Min Hyun isn't just coming back to continue. He's coming back with all the conditions to make a definitive leap in his career. Jay Wuk. Jay Wuk was never the type of actor who goes unnoticed. From the beginning, there was something about him, an almost magnetic intensity, a presence that captivates even when he's not saying anything. And perhaps because of that, his rise was so rapid. In a short time, he went from smaller roles to becoming one of the most interesting faces of the new generation. But unlike predictable trajectories, Jay Wuk's career has always had a more unpredictable air. He chooses different projects, denser characters, and this built an artistic image much more solid than simply being popular. However, at the height of this growth, the inevitable break came: military enlistment. And here enters an important point. For actors with this more intense and artistic profile, the return can be even more powerful. Because the public doesn't just expect to see him back, they expect to see him better, deeper, more impactful. With his return in 2026, there is a clear sense that he can take on even more ambitious projects, perhaps even larger productions or roles that definitively place him among the great names of his generation. Jay Wuk isn't just another actor returning from the army. He is someone who can return at a completely different level. Kim Young-dae. Kim Young-dae was that type of actor who suddenly became impossible to ignore. With an almost perfect combination of striking visuals and screen presence, He quickly gained space in popular dramas and began to draw attention not just for his face, but for his constant evolution as an actor. And the most interesting thing is that he never seemed complacent. There was always a clear effort to show something more with each new project. When his career was beginning to truly consolidate, the mandatory break of military service arrived. And for someone in full ascent, this always generates an inevitable doubt. Will the timing hold up? Will the public still be there waiting? But in Kim Young-dae's case, there is a factor that plays totally in his favor: the type of image he built. He didn't depend on a single role or momentary hype. On the contrary, he established himself as a reliable name, someone who delivers and has the potential to go further. With a return scheduled for 2026, the expectation is that he will return even more strategically. Bigger projects, more complex characters, and perhaps even an attempt to step out of the traditional romance zone into something more intense. Because if one thing is clear, it's that Kim Young-dae hasn't reached his peak yet, and his return could be exactly the turning point that was missing. Kim Woo-seok. Kim Woo-seok carries a slightly different trajectory, and perhaps because of that, an even more interesting one. Like other names that came from the idol world, he had to face that initial critical gaze. Would he be able to establish himself as a real actor? And gradually, project after project, he began to answer that question in the best possible way. On screen. His growth was gradual, without sudden explosions, but with a solid construction that showed versatility and dedication. He found his space, understood his characters better, and most importantly, gained confidence. But, as happens with many in this consolidation phase, military service interrupted this process. And that's exactly where the most interesting point of his return in 2026 lies. Unlike fully established actors, Kim Woo-seok returns with something very powerful: room to surprise. The public already knows him, but they haven't seen everything he can deliver yet. There is a silent expectation that he will return more prepared, more confident, and willing to take on roles that truly challenge his image. And in the Korean industry, this type of post-military rebirth can completely change the course of a career. Kim Woo-seok isn't just returning to pick up where he left off. He's returning with the chance to redefine himself. Jon Han has always been known for something that goes beyond talent. He has a presence that simply leaves a mark. As a member of 17, he built an extremely loyal fan base, and that naturally opened doors outside of music as well. But what many people don't realize is that, over the years, he has been molding an image much more versatile than it seemed at first glance. When his enlistment came, the impact was immediate, not just because of the career pause, but because Jon Han is the type of artist who maintains a constant connection with fans. And when that connection is interrupted, the void is truly felt. But at the same time, this creates something powerful: expectation. With his return in 2026, there is enormous curiosity about what his next step will be. Continue focusing on music, explore acting more, or even expand his presence in other areas of entertainment. The point is that Jon Han returns with something few have: an audience that doesn't just remember him, but that has been waiting the whole time. Jae-hyun has always had that complete star aura: visuals, talent, charisma. He gathers practically everything the industry looks for. As a member of NCT, he was already a globally consolidated name, but it was gradually that he began to expand his presence into acting, showing that his potential went far beyond the stage. Before enlistment, there was already a clear transition movement, an attempt to establish himself as an actor as well. And even in the early stages of this journey, he was already drawing attention. But then came the inevitable pause, freezing a moment that could have been decisive. Now, with a return scheduled for 2026, Jae-hyun returns in an extremely strategic position. Because unlike others, he doesn't need to introduce himself to the public. He already arrives with global relevance. The big question is, how will he use it? There is a strong expectation that he will invest heavily in acting, choosing projects that truly consolidate this new phase. And if he does it the right way, Jae-hyun won't just return as an idol, he could return as one of the most complete names of the new generation.